Welcome to the 6th episode of VSTML 2016 Recaps from Reality TV Warriors. My name is Michael Armstrong, and joining me as always is the Canadian who has a special interest in Puddinghead, Logan Saunders.
Good afternoon.
And the guy who did wonder a few weeks ago whether Matt Barr was working in inches or centimetres, David Bindley.
Good morning.
Oh no,
It's going to be one of those episodes, isn't it?
It's so prophetic that I did that joke on the day that Jeopardy UK was recommissioned. I'm so excited. I did not expect to see that Jeopardy UK was getting recommissioned, and thankfully it has. It gives me a second chance to still not get cast. The Logan Saunders story.
Yep. 0 for 12 with Big Brother Canada. It doesn't look like I'll get a 13th opportunity.
Nope, unlucky for some, and sadly it was unlucky for you.
Yeah, damn you, chorus.
However, shows you can apply to include Traitors. Have either of you watched Quebec yet?
No.
I sent you the link last week.
I know. I just things
I don't
have
listen
been going
to you.
on.
You don't have anything else in your lives other than this show and my suggestions. Come on. How have your weeks been anyway?
I went over to my sister's house for Father's Day.
How did that go?
It was fun.
Good. I'm glad.
Yeah, so my nieces and my nephew, they were in a very playful mood. And I also saw them last week. We all went out for dinner. And after several years, I have stopped going to trivia where I normally go for trivia. Tonight we're going to go somewhere else instead.
Ooh, why?
Because
it's a drama.
A little bit, yeah. The restaurant that hosts that's hosted trivia for 6 years, 7 years. We've been going there for about 3 years or so, because the trivia company hosts it twice a week at 2 different places. So we switched from one venue to the other about 3 years ago or so. So that's the only place we go to for trivia. So it has nothing to do with the trivia company. It's just the restaurant itself, where the owner got really cheap and didn't let the host have his own table anymore for trivia. So now the host has to host trivia from the ledge, like next to the steps that go down into where all of the tables are, because the owner of the restaurant wants to keep turning it over for customers, so he doesn't even want to give the host one lousy table in the restaurant. It's always been really busy in there. And then last week, I guess before I got there, my one friend always gets there about an hour and a half or 2 hours before trivia starts, because she drives and she orders a lot of food, and she likes to have a beer or two so that it wears off by the time she has to drive after trivia is over. So she got there at her normal time that she's been getting there for 3 years. And the one waitress said, "Oh, well, why are you here so early? We won't be able to turn this table over then if you sit down now." And sometimes we have 3 or 4 people that get there at the same time as her, just eating and having drinks up until trivia starts. So she was pretty pissed off about that. And then one of my friends was bringing her 4-year-old briefly to trivia, just probably for half an hour or so. And then, so my one friend was telling the waitress, "Oh yeah, and our friend is bringing her son out to trivia." And the waitress said, "Oh great, I hate kids," and said it right to her face.
I mean, fair.
So after it always being busy and the food menu has gone up in price, and they make you pay extra for any little thing on the menu now. So it's just they've just gotten really cheap and annoying overall. So after last week's trivia event, my friend, who is always the driver for most of us, she said, "I'm not going to go there for trivia anymore at least for the rest of summer, because it's right next to the beach where they have beach volleyball too. So there are a lot more younger drunks in there too by the end of the night for trivia. So now we're going to a different place in town where it's a different company, and we know that they don't get a very big turnout for the past couple of years.
Shooting fish in a barrel is the term.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting.
Quick question about Father's Day as well. Is my quest to make sure you're not your parents' favourite child still ongoing, or has it succeeded yet?
I think it succeeded.
Excellent. That's what I want to hear. This goes back to the Mother's Day call where I did try and convince your mother that you weren't her favourite child.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of options.
True. Anything interesting from your week, Bindles?
No, I just celebrated Father's Day by calling a guy daddy.
Ah, that makes sense. And weirdly, I'm going to continue on the trivia theme because this is a sentence that I don't think I've ever said before, but I won a competition on Friday.
Oh, wow.
I won a quiz on the radio.
Oh, wow. It required actual talent?
Yeah, I channeled my inner Michelle Pierce-Donovan, not in terms of hating my children and throwing them into an oubliette, but in terms of winning a radio competition. And yes, I absolutely thrashed a woman who works for Royal Mail from Sheffield in a 3-question multiple-choice trivia game.
Oh, good.
Awesome.
Yeah, and that now means that I have won an unlimited SIM for a year and have a 1 in 4 chance of winning a brand new iPhone, which will get sold.
Oh,
I'll find out about that at the end of the month.
nice.
One other thing I need to note is that the waitress at the restaurant was, in fact, Michelle's sister. So
That makes sense. Yeah, she does hate kids as well. What Logan couldn't translate from Canadian was the sheer amount of C words that Michelle's sister did drop.
Canadian?
Yeah, that's the acceptable C word we will say in this podcast for now.
You annoying little Canucks.
Close enough.
You annoying little Canuckers.
And I know we don't like to date ourselves, but we are recording this still technically in the first week of the Euro 2024 competition. And I did take great delight in trolling Papa Virgil de Castro on Instagram when Belgium lost a few days ago.
Who did they lose to?
Slovakia, I want to say.
Oh, that's embarrassing.
Yeah, it was really embarrassing because if you cast your mind back to, it might have been the World Cup in 2018, he tried to troll me over England losing. So I've held on to this resentment now for 6 years, and I just thought I'd get my own back a little bit. I replied to his Instagram story because he posted something about basically, come on, Belgium, do it for everyone, and I just replied, yeah, about that. It felt good, I'll be honest. No regrets. Yeah, it was indeed. They lost 1-0 on the 17th to Slovakia.
Yeah, that's pretty embarrassing.
Yep. You should be ashamed, Jill.
Yeah. Not even real Czechia, imitation Czechia.
I can't believe it's not Czechia.
To quote British icon Delia Smith, your boys took a hell of a beating. And that is as much football chat as you're ever going to get out of me.
The boys took a hell of a beating, and then they went and played some soccer.
And Bindles was seen leaving the venue. So anyway, this episode, we do have to get a bit sad now as the icon of the season has finally gone home.
Oh.
Ellie Loost was gone a couple weeks ago.
Nah, Cecile's got a beat.
Yeah.
I did realise when we recorded the premiere recap that I did kind of spoil that Cecile wasn't the mole or a finalist to you, because we had a long conversation about how if Ellie hadn't come back for Renaissance, Cecile would have been the obvious choice.
I think it was pretty obvious she wasn't the mole.
Yeah. It's sad that she didn't make it to the end, though, I think.
Yeah, you know, when you're thinking, oh, who do I hope is the last woman standing in the season? I think everyone's first choice was Anamika.
Oh, definitely. I mean, she lost out on the chance to win literally tens of euros.
Tens. €6.50.
I can't remember whether we said this on air or off air last week, but the budget for this season is hilariously low. Like, Americans would have an aneurysm at this. After 6 episodes, I think it's about 32,000 euros they could have earned.
Something like that. I think from memory, they don't get above 50 for the whole season.
31,810 is the maximum so far this season.
Wow.
So, yeah. That's pretty shit.
All their money was spent on Taka's appearance fee.
All their money was spent on stopping Taka running headfirst into things.
Just the liability insurance for Taka is why the pot is so low.
He just sees something shiny and runs headfirst into traffic.
So last time...
I did actually resolve when I was watching this episode this morning not to make too many Taka jokes, but, you know, I just can't help myself. He's too easy pickings.
Yeah.
So previously, the final 7 pedaled to answer quiz questions, but everyone missed the envelopes. Klaas and Cécile led them to a €1,000 gain in a cave before they failed again when making up sentences. At the execution, Marjolein was gone and forgotten as she became the 4th person sent home. Art says that the finale will have at least one man in it, as only 2 women are left. Cécile, who moves through the game quietly, and Annemieke, who is much more reckless. They're battling 4 men, the semi-Siamese twins in Tim and Tarka, who won't let go of each other, Rob, who's more confident now he has renewed his bond with Annemieke, and Klaas, who's just kind of doing his own thing.
Why is Art obsessed with how many men and women are left in the game this season? I can't recall another season of The Mole where it's like, oh, there's this many men, this many women. Oh, now there's this many men and this many women. Now.
There is a reason for it, but I don't think we can tell you because it sort of relates to other seasons that you haven't seen.
Hmm.
I was more amused by how he was standing in front of a baseball stadium, but we don't go inside.
So the episode title is Misplaced, just like Art was. And Tim says there are 6 people left, meaning the mole could have 5 sets of eyes on them. Now the point becomes whether you're right and whether you can distract the other players from their suspicions. And he says he's enjoying doing weird things and acting suspiciously. Never before have we had such blatant tactics going, yeah, I mean, I'm going to tell you I'm not the mole, but also, I enjoy fucking with people.
Yeah.
Halfway into a season.
I do really like Tim.
Yeah, I have a soft spot for Tim. I don't think I've made that secret. He's one of my favourite people of this sort of era of Vidum. Because he is an irrepressible shit, and he just can't help himself.
He's one of us.
Yeah, exactly. He's a kindred spirit. Out of everyone in this cast, I think Tim would probably be the most fun person to talk to.
Yeah.
Obviously, Cécile and Ellie would be hilarious to talk to. I think Ellie would be very intimidating to talk to. I think Cécile would be an absolute delight, but I think Tim would be most on our wavelength.
Yeah.
So it's day 11, and Art meets them at the Cabaret Theatre and puts them to work as set designers. They must form 2 trios, and Annemieke insists on working with Tim and Klaas, leaving Tarka, Rob, and Cécile as the other one.
They really did not think about what like a bunch of white shit would look like on television.
No, they didn't. It's a great challenge. It's a horrible one for us to have to recap because, you know, as Bindles says, white stuff doesn't really show up on camera that much.
Yeah, like I know Finland's version redid this challenge, but instead of, you know, a whole bunch of white shit, they basically just used like pots with different flowers. And I think that sort of is a better visual than this.
This looks like an insane asylum.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the vases of flowers were actually different on the tables as well, so they never could have actually matched them.
Yeah.
This is also, to put it into historical context, I think the year that Fort Boyard got in trouble for doing an asylum-themed challenge. It's one of the coolest visuals they've ever done, but they got into a lot of trouble for blatantly theming it after a mental asylum's padded cell.
Yeah.
Do you remember this, Bindles, or...?
Vaguely.
Basically, they were... It was an automatic lock-in game where someone was launched into a padded cell, and they used the rotating camera gimmick to make it look like they were bouncing off the walls and stuff. It was super cool. But it has been erased from the internet because, you know, they got a lot of complaints. To the point that when they did the repeats the year afterwards, they actually had to get Perfora to re-record some scenes saying, I'm just going to give you a bonus key if they won the game. And, oh yeah, I'm just going to take a random prisoner if someone got locked in.
Huh.
And then they rethemed it as Magic Theatre in 2017, which was the same sort of idea, just they were handcuffed to a box and had to get pom-poms out of it, I think. And then, yeah, it got retired after that. Logan's just sitting here going, what the fuck is this show? I've not even started talking about Fort Boyard properly yet. It's back in a week.
I hate how the public takes away fun things.
Yeah, it's genuinely the coolest visual I think I've ever seen on Fort Boyard. It was so cool. And yeah, sadly the theming let them down on it.
Yeah.
Also, on this challenge, could they not have just stacked everything up in a pile?
I know.
Or is that a little bit against the spirit of the challenge?
Yeah, just one ugly pile in the middle of the room.
Yeah, like, did they actually have to put it together as a set and like a dining room set or whatever? Or could they have just piled everything up in the corner? Because that would have been what I would have done. I would have just
Yeah,
been like,
that's what I would have done.
yeah, lay this on top of this and lay this on top of this, and the mole can literally do nothing.
And if one tips over, you have to yell, Jenga!
So the curtains open to reveal their two sets, and they must make the two sets match exactly with the wall in the middle. If they can make them identical in half an hour, they earn €1,500 for the pot. Was it also a mirror image with the wall, or do they have to do like 6 inches from the left on both of them for the same item?
I don't know, because Animika said part of the difficulty was that they had to do the mirror image, but then I went back and listened to what Art said. He's like, no, just make them look the same.
Yeah, because the reason I asked this is because I was looking at the challenge guide a few weeks ago to see what you'd said about these challenges.
Yeah.
And I think you did say in the challenge guide that you weren't sure whether it was meant to be mirror image or actually identical from the camera view. I think it was probably meant to be mirror image, because what's the point of having the wall otherwise?
Yeah, that's a good point.
But as you say, there's no official word on whether it is meant to be mirror image or actually identical, because they are two very different things.
Yeah. At the end, Art sort of does mark it as though it was supposed to be a mirror image, but that could have just been to be generous, and they lost anyway, so it didn't really matter.
Yeah. So Animika finds 2 white painted yokers in her set and gives them to Tim because she's like, oh, these must just be set dressing.
Idiot.
These things that are designed exactly like yokers, I don't think they're yokers.
And there is some confusion over whether they're using inches or centimetres, because apparently they use inches in Holland.
It's a question I often have to ask, man.
Apparently Klaus uses inches.
I know that we should hate on them sneaking yokers into this challenge, but I quite like it. It's one of the more charming ways that they've snuck yokers into a challenge.
Yeah. It's not that often they actually hide jokers.
No. And also, going back to our perennial theme of the price of Passfragen, actually, in this case, it could be that you gain €1,500 and get 2 yokers out of it, rather than it costing them €1,500 to get those 2 yokers.
Yeah, I was thinking that too. It added that necessary extra layer to make this challenge compelling. Is somebody going to take both? They need to find both. Is somebody in the other group going to be the same as Animika and just think it's set design and just chuck them somewhere? Is somebody only going to take one and leave one left over, and that's what makes them lose the challenge? So, yeah, it added a lot more intriguing possibilities.
Plus, numerically, it makes it even funnier because one person in each group is guaranteed not to get a yoker.
Well, Cécile didn't want one anyway.
No, but if you have 2 trios and there's only 2 yokers in there, then somebody's going to go without regardless in each side.
And they're going to get super pissed off.
Unless they're Cécile.
Unless they're Cécile, yeah.
So Taka also finds a white painted yoker to make the room identical. Rob doesn't think that Tim's being serious about there being yokers and shouting over the wall about it.
Does he think he's pulling a Scott from Amazing Race and lie about there being an express pass in the bag?
Yeah. At least until he finds one taped to some books. Klaas says he has trouble hearing Cécile over the wall. Apparently she doesn't have much volume. Cécile thinks that he's molding to waste time in the challenge, and more importantly, in her life. Tim then drops the canvas off the easel and jokes to Taka that he'll have to break one on his side over Rob's head to make it match. And then the time runs out, and Art compliments how calm and good at communication they were. However, the devil's in the details, and not all of them were replicated, meaning they earn nothing of €1,500 for the challenge. He also confirms that 2 yokers were taken on each side, much to Animika's frustration. She does an Ellie Loost and reveals that Rop has the missing one for the other side via the medium of groping.
Yeah, grop rop.
No.
They then move to a new hotel. Rop and Animika are friends again, so they room, as do Tim and Taka as always, leaving Klaas with Cécile, at least once she makes sure that they're not sharing a bed, like she's Mark from Argentina.
I thought initially when she asked for 2 beds, it was just going to be in a room by herself, and she just wanted 2 beds because she's Cécile. One to lay out all the notes from the pot, and the other for herself to sleep in.
Well, they need their beauty sleep. They've got Ellie Loost on them.
Yeah. It's just the cutout poster from the challenge of Ellie Loost in the second bed.
Yeah.
Whoop, whoop. That's the sound of Ellie Loost snoring.
No, whoop whoop, that's the sound of Ellie snoozed, obviously.
Ellie snoozed.
Come on, Saunders.
or what would be even better with Cécile in the two beds? It's herself in one bed, and then the cutout of herself in the other bed. It's two Céciles sleeping in the same room. It's like some voodoo shit.
So as treasurer, Cécile reckons the dots on the back of the money are irrelevant because nothing is by chance in Vies de Mol. She suspects correctly that once you earn enough money and you put it in the right order, you will see a picture of the mole. And she then channels her inner Sam Sparrow as all she sees is black and gold. It is then day 12 in Puerto Plata, and there's some eagle screeching to greet us at the start of the day.
Oh, Amazing Race Canada. Damn it, I thought we already talked about it.
We did, but it was off air.
Okay. All right, one aired reference. Very well.
Something that we didn't discuss that actually has happened in the last week since we've recorded is the cast for Oman came out. And inexplicably, it's younger than Netmol 2's. Albeit, still better.
It would not be hard to be better.
No. Art says he's looking for 3 people who are high and mighty and 3 who are down to earth, and rather subtly stands in front of a cable car.
I was thinking they were going to have to jump out of the cable car or descend or repel from it.
Logan, you've seen the budget for this season, haven't you?
Yeah, this season ends up with like 48,000 as the maximum Saunders. They don't have the budget to jump out of a cable car.
Well, just make it worth like 500 euros or something then to balance it out.
It's not 007 Road to a Million, which is another show that you guys should watch because it was amazing.
Oh, yeah.
That is the exact opposite of this show in that they've thrown so much money at that show. A ludicrous amount of money at it.
Is it $1 million?
Well, there's 9 pairs who can win £1 million each because everyone acts independently. But just the budget on that show is insane. They're doing all sorts of ludicrous stunts, including climbing out of the cable car, going down Sugarloaf Mountain. But you just watch the show and go, holy shit, they've spent a lot of money on this. I dread to think how much the budget was. And that is also coming back for a second series, and we may or may not know someone who's on it. So Cécile, Annemieke, and Tim are the high and mighty team, and apparently Cécile has a reputation for being a bit high and mighty. Who'd have thunk?
No way.
I think Taka, probably when he was playing sports in college, he was always high and mighty.
The Down to Earth trio will get a list of Spanish words and have to translate them into Dutch. The High and Mighty team will get a Spanish to Dutch dictionary and a list of words to translate from Dutch to Spanish, with the Down to Earth trio having that dictionary. In each group, one person has to memorize the list and they will be examined at the end, and each of them will get 5 words worth €100 for the pot, for a total of a massive €1,000.
If only they'd, had a helpful language book or something to assist them in this challenge.
Yeah, it's a real shame that nobody managed to pick up a dictionary a few episodes ago, wasn't it?
Hmm.
Do you remember that, Saunders?
Nope.
In the Quarry Challenge, €2,000 is hidden inside a dictionary which one of them could have picked up.
Right.
And yes, they could have used it for this challenge. I believe it was both Spanish to Dutch and Dutch to Spanish. That's a shame.
Yeah.
The time limit of this is the length of a cable car ride, which, thanks to Google, I know is roughly 10 minutes.
That is longer than I thought, considering, how small the actual challenge is.
Yeah, apparently it takes about 10 minutes to do one journey.
Huh.
That's 1 minute per word.
It is. And 1 minute per €100. Rob says he's not a fan of cable cars, and this one doesn't look very 2015. How are you guys with cable cars?
I love them.
I don't mind a cable car.
The reason I ask is because I'm not bad with cable cars at all. My dad hates them. My dad will not go on them because he's scared of heights. And it was quite hilarious in Santorini when him and Mum were there because you can go up a massive windy path. Have you been to Santorini, Saunders?
No. Too expensive.
So you know where they had to lead a donkey on Amazing Race Australia when that went to Santorini?
Speedy McSpeederson?
Yeah. That is a path that goes all the way up to the top of Santorini. It's covered in donkey shit to the point where when Mum and Dad were there, they were speaking to some Germans who'd already been to Santorini, and one of them offered my dad the advice, watch out for the donkey shit. But the alternative is to go up the cable car, which has massive, massive queues. My dad hates cable cars. He did not want to walk up the donkey shit infested path, so had to basically grin and bear it and go in the cable car with his eyes closed. One of the German tourists did ask him to take their picture, and he basically had to say with his eyes closed, "Ask my wife to do it. I'm not opening my eyes."
Yeah.
But when we went to Table Mountain as a family in 2019, he didn't go up Table Mountain because he couldn't go on the cable car. He couldn't face it.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So now they got an excuse to go back to South Africa and do the path.
Oh, wow.
But they're going to get robbed on that path. That path is notorious.
They're aware of it. Either that or Mum will just, drug him and make him go on the cable car.
Yeah, because that, like, when I was there, they said, you must take the cable car. If you walk up the path, you will get robbed on there or worse.
I think it's okay if you're in a group. I think if you go up there solo, you get robbed, from what I've heard. But the Table Mountain cable car was very interesting in the fact that it rotates, which is interesting when you're not expecting it.
I don't think I could do that.
Do they play music while it spins? Do they play, like, Spin Me Right Round or something like that?
They couldn't pay for the rights. The other interesting cable car that I've been on is the one at Masada in Israel, which was very, very quick.
Yeah, that one's not very long. I remember that.
No, it's like 2 minutes long, that one. And it's not a slow cable car.
Well, there's so many people who go up there.
I was going to say, and you're absolutely crammed in there. So Klaas and Cécile are on the dictionaries, Taka and Tim are on the phones, and Rob and Anamika are the learners. And Anamika says she doesn't speak Spanish, but she knows papiamento, so can fill in 3 of their 10 already.
That is such a random language to know. Portuguese Creole, apparently.
Isn't it one of the languages in Curacao, which is part of the Netherlands?
I think it is, actually. Yeah, you're right. I was wondering where I knew papiamento from, and yeah.
I thought that was one of Jill DaCosta's nicknames.
Because I'm pretty sure Amazing Race Latin America did something with papiamento, like reading an auto cue or something, and the only place they would have done it is Curacao, because everywhere else is Spanish or Portuguese.
You are 100% correct. They taught us some papiamento when I was in Curacao at Christmas.
It is spoken by more than 400,000 people, mainly in the Dutch Caribbean. It is the official language of Aruba and Curacao.
Yeah, not Bonaire, though.
Not Bonaire.
Specifically not Bonaire.
Bonaire said no.
Yep.
We want Mama Miento.
So it makes sense for her, but it's still a bit like Michael telling us he recognises the words because he knows how to speak Welsh.
Yeah. One thing I did think of when they were doing this is most of these dictionaries you can reverse engineer words from. And I know Anamika and Cécile end up doing it with some of the words that Tim and Taka are fucking around with. But there's usually a way to reverse engineer it, even if it's a monodirectional dictionary.
Yeah.
They just needed to look in the back, I think. So Taka and Tim have trouble communicating, and Taka gives Tim the wrong word for bluffer. And luckily, Anamika and Cécile, as I said, reverse engineer it. Rob then gets very annoyed at Tim and Taka's communication style and takes the phone off Taka and insists on speaking to Anamika.
It's like a manager taking a pitcher out of a baseball game. Like, they were terrible on the walkie-talkies, though. And Taka's pronunciation was awful with those words.
I think you'll find in this challenge it was walkie-talkies.
Yeah. But just say, ooh, oh, no. Say, oh, say, oh, say. No, say, nay, say, oh. That's what it was like for 5 minutes.
Oh God, Logan's having a stroke.
The other thing that I was thinking of is I don't know the timeline on this, but they were using cheap Android phones. There is a non-zero chance that those could have come with Google Translate built in. I know it's against the spirit of the challenge, but there is a non-zero chance that they could have just used Google Translate on the phones that they were using, because they weren't normal walkie-talkies, they were proper phones.
Siri, ooh, say.
Oh, say by the...
Oh, say, can you see?
Oh, say, can you? Oh, say.
So when the groups reunite, Rob and Anamika get their tests. Rob misses Puddinghead, Unconditionally, Pious, and Liar. And Anamika misses Plain and Tip for a total of 400 euros of 1,000 for the challenge. However, the best bit of this entire challenge is, of course, Taka Takuma cracking up at all of Rob's misfortunes.
Yeah, he is laughing at him.
And that's rude.
I just love that there's like a direct translation for Puddinghead.
He is unconditionally a pious lion pudding head.
Then, after the challenge, Tim decides to liven up the bus ride by suggesting a new treasurer. Cécile tells him she's looked at the back of the notes and says she saw the mole quite clearly. However, separately, she told Annemieke that she didn't. She's always said she didn't want to be treasurer, but Tim was scared by Cecile's revelation, so Annemieke does volunteer for it, and they pull a name out of Tarka's hat, and it is indeed Annemieke.
Annemieke, the new Penny Macer. It won't be as eventful.
Thinking about it, no one this season has actually wanted to be a treasurer, because
Hmm.
Klaas stumbled backwards into it because he wasn't Ellie and Tim. Then Cécile stumbled ass backwards into it because she wasn't Ellie and Tim. And now Annemieke stumbled ass backwards into it by having her name drawn by Tarka's hat.
Because she wasn't Cécile or Tim.
Yeah.
So nobody wants Tim to have the money. Still.
Nope.
And it's not an unconditional role of being Penny Macer, because you have to have the money stored in Cecile's new fancy wallet.
Yeah.
It is a real shame that Cecile's new fancy wallet did not reappear in Oregon and then Georgia and then Colombia. It should have just been a constant trope that now they have to carry the money around in Cecile's knockoff faux leather purse.
Oh god, can you imagine Olcay Goulson complaining about this wallet?
Exactly, that's what I mean. Like, we were 2 seasons away from Alte having to touch that wallet and going, oh, that's disgusting. I would never be seen dead with that.
Yeah, it smells like hockey player.
Makes me want to see a hockey player get punched in the face. So it's still day 12 in Santiago, and once again they are in trios. Art pulls up and tells 3 of them that they will be driving around Santiago in a classic car. The search for the mole has been going on for 12 days, but today they must search for themselves. They will get a map of the city with 9 points marked on it, and at each one they will find one person. Those 9 all have a hint for the location of the 10th. They must find all 10 and recreate the family photo from episode 1, and if they do, within an hour, they will earn €2,000 for the pot. I love this challenge.
Me too. This
was a fun one.
Yeah, I would say probably the second best of the season so far.
Yeah.
Behind the money trading.
It's certainly the best challenge that we've had to talk about in weeks.
Yeah.
Especially when you kick it off with Tim going, yeah, Tarka, you're going to have to drive because I don't have a license, and Klaas, you can navigate, I guess.
I'm amazed Tarka was able to see over the windshield.
I'm amazed Tarka was able to do the reading portion of the tests.
Well, they had a stool underneath on the seat, though. They had a booster seat for Taka, I think.
I am assuming that Holland has some sort of theory test as well, and Tarka probably didn't do very well with the memorization portion of the rules of the road, I would suspect.
Honk honk.
Honk honk, red means stop. I didn't even come into this season thinking that I would end up doing Tarka as a caveman impressions, but yeah. Tim is definitely one of my favourite people of this era of Vidum. Cécile is definitely one of my favourite people. Ellie is definitely one of my favourite people. Tarka is up there as well. I think if we spoke to Tarka, he probably actually would find these things very funny.
Yeah.
As I said last week, he probably doesn't care what we think because, he's rich and successful.
Yeah.
He's high and mighty.
So the other car get a call from Tim to explain the challenge, and they also have a map with the 9 marks on it. The boys find the first cutout, which is Tarka Tarkema bound to a pole like he's on a stag do, while the others find Annemieke on a street corner. Each has a word on the back. Tarka has the word the, and Annemieke has find.
I really wish Taka would have tackled the poster down saying, hey, there's an imposter. This is Face Off.
I mean, to be fair, it's not the first time he's been tied to a pole, and it probably won't be the last.
No. Notice how you're also avoiding making any jokes about Annemieke being on a street corner. Marjolein is then the next to be found, tied to a fence, and she also says the. Cécile gets distracted by clothes shops as they drive past.
She if only the cutouts were in the display windows next to the mannequins.
I know I've said it before, but they've never cast anyone like Cécile before, and they never will again. Olcay is probably the closest, but I don't even think Olcay would have got this distracted in a challenge.
I like how they just completely screw with her and say, yeah, we got a cutout here, Cécile, and the word on the back of it is unfashionable.
I like when they find the Marjolein one. They're like, Annemieke, what does the note say? And she's like, I don't know, Robbie's breaking a fence. And they're just like, okay.
They were properly cable tied onto these things.
Yeah.
They did not make it easy to get the cardboard cutouts. Probably because they would have blown over in the wind, but still, give them a pair of scissors at least. There was one, I can't remember who it was, but they basically had to rip the back off of it to free it. It was like it was Velcroed on.
Hmm.
So Cécile is found by the boys, while Remy's found by the others. Remy says you, and Cécile has a full stop, although Tim claims that it is unfashionable. Class is then found attached to a lamppost while Tim's at an intersection. Class says candidates, and Tim says on. Iron says missing, and everyone heads to the cemetery to find the ninth one. And my next note is just, holy shit, Targa's back is so sweaty.
Maybe he just ate mom's spaghetti?
Yeah, his t-shirt changed colour.
Probably explains why it smells like fish.
And they finally find Ellie Luce guarding the graves and the word highest.
They had way too much fun with Ellie Luce being placed at the cemetery.
Yeah, she's the only one not by a road.
Yeah.
What they should have done is given them the clue of it being where Ava Peron's grave was, and then just making them pick a cemetery.
Might be a little bit hard to drive.
Yeah, you can get amphibious crafts at this point.
Yeah. But you only have an hour to do it.
Time travel's a thing. The missing candidate can be found at the highest point in the city, and it is Rop, because of course he is Rop of the Pops.
Thought you were going to say high and mighty again.
Nope. Rop, Annemieka, and Cecile's car overheats, and Cecile gets overwhelmed by petrol and smoke. And the boys get off course, so Tim grabs a map from class. Eventually, Annemieka, Cecile, and Rop arrive and find Rop at the top.
As the car just very slowly makes it up the hill. Come on, Herbie. Come on.
It's such a funny visual of them just kind of having to go forwards and backwards to get the momentum to go up a very small incline.
Yeah, they're rocking back and forth in their seat.
Probably would have been quicker to cut a hole in the floor and just sort of Flintstone it up there.
Yeah. So it's a love bug. It's like probably weighs like 10 pounds.
Or alternatively, just walk up it. Find somewhere to dump the car and just walk up that small hill. Annemieka, Cecile, and Rop arrive, and they find Rop at the top. The boys arrive, and now everyone can replicate the family photo. And Tim says it should be easy because everyone had agreed that they always stand in the same position in photos, so no one had to remember who stood where.
And they still messed it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, they weren't close.
Nope. There was like 5 people wrong, I think it was. There were 3 that aren't highlighted, but there was at least 2 more that you could see in the video.
Yeah, I think Ellie on the left-hand side was basically the only one that got right.
Yeah.
Everyone remembers Ellie.
It was a complete clusterfuck.
Hmm.
So they take the photo, and Art tells them that Iron and Tim are swapped, and Cecile, Marjolein, and Remy are all wrong too, for a total of nothing of €2,000 for the challenge, 400 of 4,500 for the episode, and 6,310 of 31,810 for the season so far.
The only way that they could have had the family photo more wrong is if they incorporated one of the school kids that was up on the stairs behind them into the photo. It's like, man, he's not even in this season, guys. What are you doing?
Go back to where they took the first photo, take that kid, and bring him to Santiago. Properly fern him.
I wonder how confused all of those school kids were watching a bunch of Dutch people sorting cutouts of themselves.
It's very big-headed to carry a cutout of yourself around, though.
Yeah, it's a very high and mighty thing to do. It doesn't make you seem down to earth.
Yeah.
Do we know what they do with the Belgian mole cutouts? Because they always have cutouts of the finalists, and I think there's usually about 2 or 3 copies of them in the various photo spots.
I think there's like a table in Van Boel's basement, and he sits the cutouts in there like dolls at a tea party,
and hopes one of them comes to life and says ananas.
I do wonder what they do with them, because surely they can't scrap them. Surely the candidate themselves goes, yeah, actually, that's pretty cool. I want this as a memento. But also, would you really want 2 or 3 cutouts of yourself? Is it not a bit creepy?
I remember it for a long time. My sister had a cutout of James Dean, and that always freaked me out.
Yeah, I do say this knowing full well that I do have a life-size cutout of Robert Pattinson's Batman that scares the living shit out of my postman every single morning. I won that in a competition as well, and had to carry A 6'5" cardboard cutout through the city of Manchester. Back to my car.
That sounds on brand for you.
It was ludicrous and hilarious. I probably should have just said no when I won it. I'd be like, yeah, I'm not that interested anymore, sorry. But no, I saw the comedy in it. So on the morning of day 13, Cécile and Klaas discuss a bond. She says she's all alone and she's spreading on 2, maybe 1 person. However, she won't tell him who, refuses to form a bond, and basically says, fuck off, you're on your own.
You're on your own?
No one's on your own. Not through choice. It is now time for the test. 20 questions about the identity and actions of the mole. Whoever knows least goes home except for the mole who can never go home. Tim has 2 yokers and Rob and Tarka have 1 each. Cécile says she's got a disadvantage not having any yokers, so she'll do worse than all the men who pocketed them. She always plays too fanatically and wears dresses without pockets. She should be less girl and a bit more bitch, because her and Annemieke cannot be beat by a bunch of children. Klaas says it's time to go all in. Spreading isn't working anymore, bearing in mind there are still, 4 tests at this point. He's going for 2 people, Tim and Annemieke, which is the exact opposite of going all in if you ask me, because that's still spreading over 2 people, Klaas. Tarka says Rock can be clumsy and really dries, but he's got a gut feeling that something's just not right with him. Annemieke was on Klaas, Tim and Marjolein, but Marjolein left. She's done 4 executions on Tim and Klaas, occasionally adding others, so she must be doing something right. Tim has 2 yokers but isn't playing them. He wants to see whether he still gets through without playing anything. And Rob is going for Tim and Klaas. The others have been crossed off now as he's sure they're not the mole. It'd be lovely if one of the 2 of them could leave so he could be certain, and he does play his yoker. Art says he won't talk about the money they could have earned this episode, but the yokers that they found instead. They could mean the difference between green and red screens, which would be terrible for those who pick them up and put them down quickly in the theatre. 4 men and 2 women are left, but what will the score be soon? Rob and Tim get green screens before literal icon Cécile Narinx gets the red screen and is sent home.
Now it's Annemieke and 4 dudes.
Well, 3 dudes and Rob.
Yeah, Rob is also there.
I feel like Rob is also there as a good, summary for the entire season.
Yeah. I'm not going to ask whether we need to eulogize Cécile, because I know we need to eulogize her, but who wants to eulogize her first?
She actually didn't need to be told to say goodbye. She knew the assignment.
She paid attention.
Yeah.
Yes. And then Art says, I heard you say you don't do packs or alliances. You don't do packs. And then she says, I don't do pelts. You misheard. But I don't do packs either.
I think it's an absolute crime if we get another Renaissance season, which is perennially rumoured, if Cécile doesn't get an invite at least.
Yeah.
She was hilarious in every scene she was in this season.
The first part of the montage is of her running during the laser game.
Yeah.
That says it all.
And we did also see her wearing horrible lime green water shoes, which is a lovely touch. I think they have, as I've said before in this episode, they've never cast anyone like Cécile before. Olche is probably the closest, and they never will again. She's a delight, and as much as we don't advocate for people coming back a second time, she needs a call if they do another Renaissance season.
Yeah.
It's not a Karen situation where she's now part of production, as far as I'm aware. Cécile is very much, available for them to cast. Whether she wants to come back is a whole nother story. I think she probably would, because, as she said, she's a fan of the show. But she needs a call.
Yeah.
Especially now Ellie's returned and lost again.
Yeah. Ellie's had her chances.
Yeah. What are your thoughts, Saunders?
Yeah, she should come back if they ever do a returnee season. I mean, but again, your own was invited back, so that means anybody could come back.
I, for one, cannot wait for Remy to get the call.
That's probably the luck we'll have with this season. It's Remy and Annemieke.
So Annemieke says it hurts. She's lost her buddy, and Cécile was a beacon of calm. Rob says it's a big hole in the group. She brought a great deal of humour, and that will be sorely missed in the pointy end of the game. She also, as you said, Saunders, doesn't need to be reminded to leave by Art. She says she didn't trust Klaas enough to have a bond with him. Maybe she should have. She never got a yoker and never retained any information, and she succeeded in her personal mission not to wear zip-off pants and loose shirts, and proved that you can kayak in a dress.
She won in her own way.
Yeah.
Like she should just her idea of winning wasn't unmasking the mole in the final three and taking the pot. It was not doing pelts.
Wearing decent clothes and dancing to Anita Meyer in the car.
Exactly. Something we can all aspire to.
Yeah.
And you can't put a price tag on that.
No.
So next time, creepy bellboys are around the Sandcastle Resort. There is a game-changing game of 4 in a row, and restaurant wars begin.
Is that the same as Connect 4?
Kind of. It's more of a card game.
Yeah.
Ah, never mind. So no.
No. Connect 4 was Hong Kong, Philippines.
The challenge is basically match 4 symbols to win them, with people having hidden sets of cards and stuff.
It's a fun one.
Yeah, without getting into too many specifics of the rules of it. That's the basic bit of it.
It's a fun one, but it's basically the last time they do like the kids board game for an advantage at this late in the game sort of thing.
Yeah. So, the final few questions. Number 1, we have to get to the important one first. Who's fucking Saunders?
Well, Anamika has a lot of options at this point. It's got to be Anamika and somebody.
I love how you're assuming that it's still people in the game. It could be people who've gone home by this point.
Nah. Is it so? It's a real person. It's not somebody with one of the cutouts.
Yes.
Yeah, it's not a Tico situation where he cut a hole in his own cutout. No, don't worry about that. It was a small hole.
Weirdly, in the elbow.
It wasn't a Matt Ball situation.
Anamika and Taka.
Interesting.
Interesting.
The
next question is, who do you suspect?
My suspect list, Klaus is numero uno. They're free to translate that into into Dutch in their dictionaries.
Into Papiamento.
Yeah, or into Papiamento. Yeah, Papiamento. Then Rop, then Anamika, then Tim, then I had Cécile and Taka.
Interesting. The bonus question this week on the suspect list was, what was the mole's role in the Learn Spanish challenge? Was it use the phone, which is Tim and Taka, learn words, which is Rop and Anamika, or look at words in the dictionary, which is just Class?
Look up words.
Interesting. And who's going home next?
Yeah, I can't remember if I don't think Vidim ever... Did they have the... No. Anamika's going to be safe. I predicted Anamika would go home, so I was very disappointed that was Cécile instead.
As we all were.
I'm going to say... Taka. I think Taka goes next.
Interesting.
Yep. I love how that's literally all me and Bindles can say for a few more
Interesting.
Yeah.
Noted.
Yeah, 2 more episodes, and then after that we can just be fully unbridled. I do think it's very interesting that that Cécile obviously went home suspecting Klaas like you do.
Yeah.
I think she's the first person to go home suspecting Klaas. Because, I mean, she says to Art, oh, I didn't even trust him. Maybe I should have done.
Yeah. I think we see her picking his word from the Cardboard Standee challenge on the test.
And one of my notes, I didn't finish writing Anamika's name. I just stopped at Anami. I didn't get the K and the E down for some reason.
She's an enemy of the people.
Enemy of the people, yeah. Enemy of the state. That could be a long list of puns.
Believe me, it will for next episode.
You wouldn't believe how hard it was to find a way to fit Anamika into the Belgie episodes.
I can imagine. It doesn't go through smoothly. Let's see. Is there anything else I wanted to say about mole sabotage, since I'm the only one who can say that for this season? I think the set design challenge was a really tough one to succeed with.
Yeah.
All it takes is the mole all they have to do is just misplace one by a few centimeters or inches, by a few inches, and boom. Yeah. That's a failed challenge. So I think it was really tough to win at that one, especially with the mole in play.
I think on the set design challenge, without giving any specifics, obviously, I think the only way to stop the mole being able to sabotage is to babysit the living bejesus out of them. You have to just have someone on their side keeping an eye on them to stop it fucking up.
And I don't think the mole really needed to do too much in the dictionary challenge because I think Tim was just screwing with Taka as much as possible, as he was bragging about the start of the episode. So I think the mole may have done a little bit where they just maybe they could be just holding the dictionary and not be able to find the words right away. That'd probably be the most subtle way where you don't really get caught with the sabotage there. While you hear Taka going, say, oh, say. And what was that last one? The car one? Well, I mean, they got so many wrong with... You can find out the cutouts really quickly. It's just the challenge only mattered with how you arranged it for the photo. Everything else was inconsequential for the most part.
Yeah.
And the fact that they got so many people wrong in the family photo, I don't think the mole had to tilt the table too much there either. If it was just two being swapped, then you have to really think about what the mole did. But the fact that they got half the cast wrong, I'm thinking it was more of just inaction from the mole with the family photo, to where it's just, I'm just not going to correct anybody and just let it be wrong, because it's another, once again, much like the set design challenge, it was an all or nothing challenge. So I don't think the mole really had to do too much this episode.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to say, Bindles?
No, I'm good.
Cool. Anything more for you, Saunders?
That was a tall Jesus in that episode. That was a really tall Jesus.
Yeah, that's why they put Rob up there, because the higher they had, the closer to God.
Good point. So, thank you for listening to our VSML 2016 recap. We'll be back next week to continue the hunt for an old mole in the Dominican Republic. Don't forget you can contact us on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, or Instagram, where we are RTV Warriors, or you can email us at contact@rtvwarriors.com. Logan's on the Artist Fold knows Twitter at Logsquacky, Bindles is Zugun Recapper, and I'm MJ Harmstone. You can also support us on Patreon at patreon.com/RTVWarriors. Thank you as always to Marika for the subtitles, and we will see you next week.
Peace out and just chill till next to flavoring.
Ananas! Ananas!
Thank you, Van Bull.